What's going on, guys? Welcome back to another episode. Today, we actually are going over some screen recordings I shot this morning on the new Explorer by Humminbird and the Mega Live 2 on a very shallow river. I was actually only in 5 foot of water using forward mode and perspective mode. It was very windy. I had my boat on anchor lock and it was swaying back and forth. It was not the best shooting situation, but we got some great screen recordings for shallow water. No mask, shallow rocky river, 3-mile-an-hour current, 6-inch visibility. So let's get into the video right now. All right, guys, you see my bait just hit the water right here, and I'm bringing it in. This is a small 3/8 ounce rippin wrap. Bringing it in along the bottom there. You can kind of see it bouncing in. As it gets closer to the boat, you can see a fish actually come up off the bottom right here and just check it out just for a second. Right there. You can see it's going to come off the bottom about right here. Coming up, taking a little sniff, and wasn't interested and went back down to the bottom. But I was really surprised on how well I could see my bait in this dirty water in such shallow. You can see I'm only in 4 feet of water. You see my bait dropping down right there. I'm ripping it back right here. And this was a really windy day. There's another fish that just came up, took a look at it, kind of moving towards after it there, and kind of disappeared off into the abyss. But again, this is a really windy day. I have the trolling motor on anchor lock. I'm getting blown around. I did get a couple casts out to 80, 90 feet. You could see it hit the water, but I could not see my jig following. And right here you can see a fish moving off from the boat. Probably one that came over here that was looking at it earlier, but it's moving out right here. And so this definitely works in shallow water situations. You can see my jig coming in right there again. Shallow water, 4 feet of water. I can't be, more happy with the quality of this. I know it worked in 20 feet, 30 feet, deep water, reads really clear. It is really splotchy because we're in shallow water. There's a lot of rocks, a lot of current. And with the boat swaying around, we had 15-mile-an-hour winds today. It is just tough to get, I give the people props that use this on a daily basis in rivers and actually have success with it, because it's hard to keep that transducer pointed in that direction that your jig is with current and wind and the boat moving around like that. So I know with no wind in a lake, it's going to be great, but it is another useful tool in a shallow river like this right here. You can see this bait moving its way in. I'm just jigging it up and down, keeping it off the bottom so you guys can see it for one, or else we'll be making a little more ground contact. You can see a fish up here near the surface swimming away from the boat. So I am able to see fish. I'm able to see my 3/8 ounce rippin wrap pretty well. Those long casts that I did get, that I landed out at 80, 90 feet, you could see it hit the water. I really couldn't pick that jig up until I got it in there around 50 feet. I'm sure if you're using a bigger bait, you can see this fish swimming down. He's coming down, looking like going into this piece of structure right here. Probably a piece of wood or log down there, something like that. So, all right, guys, here is perspective mode. Again, we're in a shallow river. It's 4 to 5 feet deep right here. It's this river. The max depth you're going to find is about 7 foot, and the 7-foot section I could just not get anchor locked on. The waves were too bad. It's coming straight out of the south, coming straight up the river. But you can see pieces of structure, rocks. You can see the shadow casting behind it, shadow casting behind something here. I could not get my 3/8 ounce rippin wrap to show up on this perspective mode. It just wasn't happening. I tried some different settings, adjusting these settings up and down, trying to pick it up. I did put the target boost on. If you want to go to target boost, you could actually go down here to settings, and you have your target boost. I have on right there. It kind of makes things stand out, these hard returns like this right over here and stuff like that. But the perspective mode is really cool. You know, if you're bed fishing, you're definitely going to be able to see beds. If you're using a bigger bait, you're going to be able to see it. I was able to go out a couple days ago. I actually deleted all my card. It was just super windy. I was in 2-foot waves and my boat was rocking all over the place and couldn't see anything. But I did have a 1-ounce rattle trap I used for muskies, and I was able to see that on this perspective mode. But this is just to look at just how this looks in a shallow river in 5 foot or less. We got one more clip here where we move into some structure and actually see a little bit more here. So let's move on to that right now. One more structure here. We got some laydowns back over here. I'll be zooming back in on that in a second. But these are laydowns coming into the water right here. You can see the hard return coming out into the water from the shoreline. That is the shoreline up there, that black. And there's just a lot of stuff in the water, little limbs and trees and a bunch of rocks in here. You can see these rocks right here come as these really hard returns. And I'm not sure when it is in this video, but you could actually see a fish moving around inside this structure here. But you can see really well in this perspective mode. If you're looking for structure, sunken trees, stuff like that, looking for any kind of fish beds, bluegill beds, those should stand out like a sore thumb with this perspective mode or landscape mode, whatever they call it on this Humminbird. But it's really cool. You can see fish. You can see a bigger bait. You're not going to see, small, 1/8 ounce jig head in a minnow. I don't think you're going to be able to see that. But you can see all the structure on the bottom of this river. And that is in dirty water. I mean, the visibility is only 6 inches, and it's moving at like 3 miles an hour. So probably the worst picture you're going to get out of this, if you're in some clean water and on a lake, a little bit deeper, not moving around a lot with the current, you're going to be able to see really well on this perspective mode. I'm really impressed. All right, guys, in this video, you can see we're only in 3 feet of water. There's actually a warm water discharge that comes out of the river right here, and I'm just scanning around, seeing if I see anything up there. And I was pitching just a 1/4 ounce jig head and a minnow. I really didn't pick up my jig head. This is actually the warm water right here. It actually changed the color. You can see my jig drop down right there. But I really couldn't pick it up along the bottom. I had it really close to the bottom, of course. But you see right where I just pitched my jig, there is a fish sitting right there, lit up in the middle. And I'm just making a few casts in here, and I actually hook into a smallmouth, and you can see it on the screen here as I hooked it, and it was coming up for a jump. Should be here in just a second. But again, this is only in 3 feet of water, so probably the shallowest you're ever going to use this Mega Live 2. And it still picks up fish in the bottom and stuff like that. So see, there's another fish right here. Right here's that fish that just came up, jumped, came back down, fighting me a little bit. So seeing that, no problem. Just really couldn't get a bullseye on that small jig. But you can see some fish in and out of this warm water right here. And just wanted to show you that picture of extremely shallow water. All right, guys, that's it for today's episode. I know this wasn't the greatest video quality, being a windy day, the boat rocking back and forth, working against current. It was pretty hard just to shoot and keep the boat steady, things like that. But I appreciate you guys watching. I had a few people reaching out, wanting to see some open water video in shallow river situations. I know this has already worked great in deep water, ice fishing this winter. In lakes, it's going to work great. That perspective mode is going to be awesome for finding bluegill beds, smallmouth beds, bass beds, whatever you're looking for, structure, sunken, boats, trees, things like that. So please like, subscribe, guys. Leave a comment down below. We will be having some more videos coming up.